maybe a few kinks and some pieces that need to be tied together. Are we good to go here?
So
I believe so. Okay. As some folks are joining us through audio or Zoom, I'm going to ask Nancy to take roll call.
Linda,
Present.
Jerry,
here.
Jenna, Brad,
Here.
and Deb.
Here. First, I'd like to thank the Pine Grove community for making it possible for us to hold our first in-person meeting since COVID. It was a wonderful feeling to open up the doors and have people join us. And thank you for giving us your evening. Thanks also to Layla and Josh and Nancy, who had to go the extra mile to make all of the chords and the pieces and everything come together. So we appreciate it. We know it adds extra steps to the process, but it feels really wonderful to have you here. We welcome all of you in the audience, and we thank you for participating in the city's business. We're ready for any public comments, and the microphone is going to be right over there. For items that are not on the agenda, I remind folks that there is a 3-minute time limit, and this is not a time when council will engage with participants. We ask that you first state your name and your address for the record.
Right. First up is Joe Newhouse, and the speaker has been moved. So just come to the front of the table. That's fine.
So there is no speaker? I should yell.
Right.
Okay.
These are people.
I'm Joe Newhouse. I live in Pine Ridge and I have a home on 3rd Street in Manzanita as well. This won't take anywhere near 3 minutes, but at a previous meeting, Kayleen Weiniger asked if this council was going to continue the previous council's process of hearing from the public prior to council votes. And the mayor answered yes. I'm not sure the question was completely understood because it didn't seem to happen on several occasions. I can still hear in my head words from the former mayors, Jerry Bullard and Mike Scott, and that they used at the beginning of every council vote. Actually, I can't remember it exactly, so I'm going to paraphrase, but they would always say, our next item is this and such. First, we will discuss this among the council, then I will open the floor to public comments, and then the council will have the final conversation before a vote. I understand this is optional, but I really hope as a council that you would continue to do that. Thanks.
Do I get your crib sheets?
Yeah.
We are able to respond to public comment at this point, don't we?
No.
Okay.
Is there anyone else?
No one else.
You want on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Thank you, Joe. Next, we will approve the consent agenda. We need approval of the minutes from the March 8th work session and the regular work session. I have one discussion point on the March 8th minutes under D. It reads, a consensus of council was reached to not change the current process. And I think it would be helpful going forward to see that process spelled out to avoid confusion going forward. So if there's some discussion, maybe it should read something like liaison positions will be on a volunteer basis from council, and any changes will go before the council for transparency. So is there discussion about that, or
Can you restate how you wanted to read?
liaison positions will be on a volunteer basis from council, and any changes will go before the council for transparency?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so we're all good. So we'll make that change in the minutes. Before taking a motion to approve the bills, I wanted to note that the Pine Grove venue rental is $2,927. And I've had several questions about that. So I wanted to make the clarification that that number is for the rental for the rest of the year and not just tonight's meeting. First time I saw that, then I started getting the calls. So do I have a motion to approve the bills?
So moved with the amendment.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And roll call, Nancy, please.
Yes. Linda,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Jenna,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Ed.
Yes.
Could I just make a quick point of order, Mayor? Apologies, just to clarify, I think the motion was just approval of the bills, but the motion should have been approval of the consent agenda. So that the minutes are adopted as part of the motion. So may I request that someone restate the motion and include the full consent agenda?
So I move to, again, to accept the minutes as amended and the bills to be paid.
Second?
I will second that again.
Second, a second time. Okay, thank you. Do we need to revote?
Or you could just say all those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
No,
Motion carries.
thank you. Motion carried. The city manager's report is next. Leila?
Thank you. I just have a couple of announcements to make, nothing in response to last time, but to answer Councillor Edgington's question. When we receive public comment, part of what I'm going to try to do at the next meeting is if there is something to respond to, I will provide information at that time. So I just wanted to let folks know that we've canceled planning commission for this month. We don't have any current applications, and we just received a copy of the transportation draft systems plan. So we'd like to get that posted online, give the planning commission and council plenty of time to read that before we go to planning commission. So we anticipate doing that in April, so May. As I mentioned, we have the final TSP draft, so we'll get that posted on the city's website once ODOT releases that to us. And I did want to make a note too that the David's chair, so we got David's chair, which is a ADA mobility device. It's really cool and it works really well on uneven territory like our beaches. And so that's been approved and we have a space for it at the visitor center, and hopefully by next they'll have a timeline and we'll have a process in place to check those things out. So that's very exciting. I also wanted to make mention too, the Citizen of the Year. So we're taking nominations. All you need to do is email cityhall@ci.manzanita.or.us and let us know who you're nominating. There's no form, but we just like to hear who they are, why they should be considered. We're collecting all that information. We pass it off to Dave Dillon, and then they work through a process and nominate somebody for the Citizen of the Year, and they get to ride in the 4th of July parade, which is happening. And finally, I made an announcement at the last council meeting where we discussed City Hall, and that would have on March 27th. And upon further reflection and looking at the budget process, I proposed to council to move the decision to move to phase 2 to the June 7th meeting. And the purpose of doing that is that the budget committee and the council will have an opportunity to review the city's budget and our 5-year budget projections, which is a necessary component for them in order to make this decision. The budget gets dropped 2 days before the May meeting, and again, upon further reflection, that didn't seem sufficient time for the council to make an informed decision about what their potential next steps are on that. So we will be moving that decision to June 7th. And with that, I'll hand it back over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, can I just ask a question? So if we move the go, no go decision from May to June,
Right.
do we then move the how to pay for it to July or?
Well, and cross that bridge. We may be able to have that discussion at the June meeting as well. So I've actually learned some new information that I'm not ready to share now. But I'm anticipating we will at least be able to potentially have that discussion in May, at least start that discussion at the May work session.
And
I hope, hold me to it, things change.
And in the June meeting, you're talking about presenting the budget and the go, no go meeting in the same.
So in June, that's correct. So we have June 14th will be when the city council formally adopts the city's budget. And so I'd like to keep that focused only on the city's budget. My recommendation is that you make the decision for go, no go June 7th.
Okay.
You will be having discussions about the budget, which will include likely a recommendation, resources allocated to phase 2. So you will be having that discussion as you're working through the budget process. it provides council a few weeks to grind through that data as opposed to a few, having to do it in a much shorter amount of time.
Sounds great.
Are folks comfortable with that?
You're gonna publish that timeline. Are you gonna put that out for us?
We will, we can. What would you
Just get a,
suggest? Yeah, I'm happy to find a way to make sure that folks know that.
okay, perfect.
So happy to take any suggestions.
Okay, moving next. Although it's really sad for our community to lose a valuable community member, we are happy for Chief Beswick from the Nehalem Bay Fire Department, who will be moving to Washington where he will be closer to his family and his grandchildren. And we know all about grandchildren. So we would like to take this opportunity, Chief, to have you come up and present you with one of Linda Cook's paintings, so that when you are in Washington, you won't forget about the ocean and the eagles. Everybody is so
Very nice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
So much.
Yeah.
You want to get a speech?
Oh, speech. Gosh, I actually will say a few words, but very short. First of all, I want to thank the city of Manzanita. As businesses and organizations go, the city is the only one that allows their staff to respond as volunteers. So Dan Weitzel, Jason Weiss, and our newest recruit, Josh Hamilton.
Oh, nice.
So thank you very much for that. We can't do it without you. We have rock steady volunteers that are close and available during the day, and that's invaluable for a department. So thank you so much for that. Also, I just want to let everybody know that the interim chief, Frankie Knight, is going to do a wonderful job. Many of you probably know him. He's been a lifetime resident. He's got 20 years plus experience, and I'm hoping that they make it a permanent position. We'll see. But in the meantime, he's going to do a wonderful job. And then this makes other opportunities for our volunteers, because that makes another vacancy that we get to fill. And Frankie and I have been working on some long-term strategies that I think would really be beneficial to the area. So I hope that moves forward.
We look forward to having him come in and putting him on the spot.
He's a much better speaker than I.
Did pretty well. The box here.
Terrific. Yes, thank you. And unfortunately, I can't stay because it's my last drill time. So I have to head straight over to drill and hang out with those guys. So
I told him he didn't have to stay. We'll miss you.
thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
With that, I get to step right out the door.
Yeah. There you go. See you later.
Excited. I'll see you over.
Okay, the first item on the agenda under new business is Counselor Mayerly to talk about the Nehalem Bay Health District Bond Resolution.
Well, thank you. Council resolution number 23 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Manzanita endorsing the May 2023 Nehalem Bay Health Center bond measure. And as a former healthcare provider, I've seen the need for healthcare everywhere I've been, from my residency at a county hospital in Minnesota to my private practice in Lake Oswego, which, believe it or not, has a lot of healthcare issues, as well as a citizen here. And I think it's important that we recognize this bond measure. The city of Wheeler has already done so. This measure checks a lot of boxes that I heard when I was out campaigning with respect to providing healthcare services and affordable housing for healthcare employees. And I believe the majority of this community would support such a measure. And so I'd like to introduce Mark Johnson, who is Chair of the Nehalem Bay Health District, to say a few words about the bond, and then we can discuss the resolution.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you for a moment. The health district is trying to accomplish with this bond measure three really critical needs in our community, address three really critical needs in the community. One is to improve quality and access of healthcare, including creating a facility that will have the capacity to bring to the community services that now are not available. Dental care, cardiac care, an opportunity to house specialty services inside a new Nehalem Bay Health Center and pharmacy. Second part of the strategy relating to the bond measure would be to rehabilitate, refurbish, remodel, modernize the Nehalem Valley Care Center in Wheeler, the region's only skilled nursing facility and a rehabilitation center. In fact, the only facility of its kind on the North Coast between Astoria and Newport. The loss of two assisted living facilities in Tillamook County last year, I think really cast a bright light on the need to maintain these facilities. And one strategy that we believe is critical to maintaining the care center is an upgrade of the facility to both improve the environment for the patient there, but also for the workforce and more inviting for the care center staff. Third part of the strategy related to the bond measure would provide funding to repurpose the old Wheeler Hospital site. Hospital was built in the 1950s, ceased to operate as a hospital in the 1980s. It is a derelict building that needs to be demolished. And we believe the property, after close consultation with the city of Wheeler, can be repurposed to develop workforce housing, particularly geared, as Councilman Brad said, to address the needs of healthcare workers in our community and other essential workers as well. It's not going to be a huge project, but it'll be a significant down payment on the kind of workforce housing that is so rare in Tillamook County right now. So the measure is on the ballot May 16th. We are running an active campaign to try to get the word out to the community. And as the councilman mentioned a moment ago, the city of Wheeler unanimously endorsed the measure a couple of weeks ago with Mayor Doug Honeycutt saying that, I'm going to paraphrase him, but I think capture the essence of what the mayor said. Strong communities have quality health care and a good school system. And we aspire to have better health care here long into the future and provide better senior services for what we all know to be an aging population in our community. Well, I like your endorsement if you're able to do so. It will mean a lot to us as we try to move this issue forward. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And certainly those of us who are part of that aging community would like to age in place. So we really appreciate this thing coming together. And would welcome any public comments or questions. Is there anything from the public? Yes,
You mentioned there was going to be a pharmacy as part of that.
Yes, sir.
Is that pharmacy going to work with the Veterans Administration for the retired veterans in our area here?
Madam Mayor, it's a question that I've heard a lot. And I think the short-term answer would be, or the short answer would be, yes, we're going to try to do that. I think it's fair to say that there are some real complexities dealing with Veterans Administration requirements and regulations, et cetera. But I've heard enough, and I think the management of the health center and pharmacy has heard enough to know that we really need to try to improve that relationship going forward. One of the benefits of creating a new facility, a larger facility, is that we'll have a much more adequate pharmacy than we have in the community now. One of the difficulties has been that sometimes people have to wait a couple of days to get a prescription filled, simply because there is not adequate space in the facility to maintain the inventory of the kind of medications that are in demand. So expanding the facility, creating greater capacity, I think can lead to a number of good things, and I would hope would set us on the path to addressing the issue that you raised. But frankly, I've heard the fight quite a lot in the last couple of months.
Right, I've heard that one too as well. Is there any other public comment?
I just put more as the commander of the VFW and my affiliation with the American Legion. If there's any problems you run into, I would be more than glad to have our organizations assist you on that. We do have a little bit of clout with the VA.
I appreciate that more than I can tell you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the public?
Madam Mayor, if I could just say one more thing. As I think most of you know, the health district was successful in securing federal funding for
That's
this
right.
project late last year
Right,
through the good work of Senator Jeff Merkley. Pays to have your senator on the right appropriations subcommittee. He really took an interest in this project. So the $3 million will add to what we're asking the local taxpayer to district residents, property owners to pay. And frankly, makes it more doable, it seems to me, for our community to take a very significant leap forward with healthcare. So a $3 million federal appropriation is on the line, available to us if we can come up with our share of the local.
congratulations. on
Thank
that.
you very much. I appreciate the questions and the comments.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any discussion amongst the council?
I think it's a great idea.
Jerry?
Yeah, I just want to note that I am going to recuse myself from the vote tonight on the resolution because I'm on the board of the Halem Bay Health Center and Pharmacy, and we are obviously a partner with the Health District on this bond measure. But I would like to just thank Mark for coming now 3 times. He's come to talk to us about this project. And I think each time he has helped us see even more both the opportunities here and the challenges of a elected body taking on this kind of a bold and ambitious and forward-looking initiative. So I'm glad to be a part of it. I hope my fellow counselors embrace it. And I thank Mark again for presenting to us.
So we're looking for a motion to endorse the Halem Bay Health Center bond measure. Brad,
Make that motion.
you'll make that motion to endorse it. Second,
I second.
second.
Sorry, could I do a quick point of order?
Sorry.
You're adopting the resolution.
A resolution, thank you.
Thank you.
I second.
Brad firsted it.
Brad and
Brad firsted.
Bad firsted.
And then roll call, Nancy.
All right. Linda,
Yes.
Gary,
Recuse.
Recused. Okay.
Jenna,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Steph.
Yes.
Enthusiastically.
She's on soon.
Okay,
We're getting a whole enchilada.
okay, all right. And you talked to her about timing?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Next, we'll move to the destination management plan. I'd like to thank Nan, who will outline the next steps in our process, and I think she's on the screen there somewhere.
Hi, Nan.
Hello. So, Nan, we're gonna put you, there you go.
There
Now
you are.
now you're in full
Whoa.
color.
Okay.
Thank you Thank you for joining us. Can you take us through the next steps? You've been
Yes,
busy compiling information.
yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank all the community members who came and took part in this community and destination management planning. They had great ideas. We had wonderful discussions and we came up with solutions and priorities. And I think the involvement here in Manzanita was even so much greater than the other places that we've done. We've done 3 other places, and we're about to do 3 more actually. And I think that what came out of this is just an opportunity for the community to have their voice heard. It allows the city a roadmap for investment for both TLT, from all sources of TLT, not just the cities, and other funding, other grant opportunities. And I think as the city has capacity, these projects can be done in the priority that the community has placed them. So I was really very impressed with what came out of this. And I like I said, I really appreciate what people have done and took part. So the first up, and one of the things that was identified and prioritized was a wayfinding process, which we can do. It is totally funded by the county. So whatever, and wayfinding is a series of signage. The signs that were most requested are public parking signs. And I think that's a really good idea, but also interpretive signs, which allows the city and the community to tell stories that are important to them, whether it's about history or about stewardship, about wildlife, about community life. And that helps send a message to visitors too, about what's important to the people that live in Manzanita. So we'll start that soon. I'm talking with City Manager Layla about this and when we'll start. It usually just takes one community meeting and then we turn it over to our wayfinding experts and they come down and take a visit and look around. They've actually done this once before at my request years ago. And we put into a plan that the community and city council can approve. And then I get it into our budget request for the county, and the county TLT pays for all the signage. And we facilitate the program. So and I am also very pleased to see that one of the priorities was STR enforcement, and I know you're going to talk about that tonight. And I did a semi-annual report to the county commissioners this morning and mentioned this. And they said, oh my gosh, Manzanita has become a model for the whole coast. So as you discuss that tonight, I just want to tell you that that's going to have a huge impact on the rest of the county. So.
Well, it's a great idea to be able to dovetail off of those TLT funds. I was also really amazed at one of your presentations on how much these signs cost.
Oh, yes.
I was blown away. They're like hundreds of dollars.
Yes, and they have they're specially built for the coast. So they have a 20-year lifespan, usually minimum 20-year lifespan, and they are made with materials that withstand a coastal environment. So that's why they're more expensive than usual. But the county has been fine with it, and they have never questioned the amount that's been spent because they know it's going to last a long time.
Okay. Anyone on the council have a question for Nan?
I don't have a question, I guess, just for public. In our council packets today, there is a very large summary, great summary from Nan on the community, on the projects that she led. I think there are 3 sessions. So take a look at those when you have a chance.
Okay. Thank you, Nan, for your time, your energy. I enjoyed your meetings. Can't wait to see the signs up, and I look forward to flower baskets one of these days too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
People love
always.
that. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Next on the agenda is the Tillamook Coast Visitors Association, and Carolyn Greenwood will be presenting.
No, me.
No, Layla, okay.
So what this is, for folks that are new to the council and for members of the community, we used to have a contract employee, Dan Haig, who ran the visitor center. 2 years ago, when I got here, Dan left, not because I got here.
Yeah.
I ended up connecting with Nan about having TCVA contract for us. And I did an intermediate, what they call an intermediate procurement process. So I reached out to 3 entities that could potentially provide this service, and TCVA was that entity. And so we got under contract with them, and we now have a contract employee that TCVA manages, that manages our visitor center. And that's the wonderful and amazing Carolyn Greenwood, who's done just an incredible job. And because that relationship has been so strong, I'd want to point out that the reason why we're able to put forward a code enforcement officer is largely because Nan spends time with me and listens to my crazy ideas and helps me vet these things. And so it's because of the partnership that the city has with TCVA that we do get to be a lead. And so this relationship has been, I think, exceptional and has been extremely beneficial to the city and the community. And so what I would like for council to consider is there's 2 options that Nan has put before us in this proposal. My hope is to get a motion for approval on one of these actions tonight. Then I will use that information to inform the budget so that I can include that into the budget. I want to make a point that, especially for those in the community, that I updated the council has hard copies, but the packet online has an updated version of the proposal. There's another problem that Nan has helped me solve is that in order for the city to be able to extend insurance to the 4th of July parade, we have to have somebody who works for the city managing it. I don't have staff that can do that. Our capacity is maxed to the max. However, our partnership with TCVA is such that because we have Carolyn under contract, we can extend our insurance to Carolyn and thus extend that to the parade. So I asked Nan to amend the contract and to include a budget estimate for the resources it will take to complete that. So both proposals include that. So I didn't give you an option, but you were most welcome to remove it, of course. But the options, the real main difference is this is the TCVA. So this is Carolyn's contract. That's the $38,316. That covers her for a full year. We do website and social media work, so we help pay for that, and TCVA does a great job in managing that and keeping the visitor center webpage up to date and so forth. A couple of line items for activities and things like that. Carolyn's done these wonderful scavenger hunts and just really knows how to make 2 nickels from a dime. We have proposed, so the main difference is that before I got here, but the city would do off-season marketing grants for businesses. So businesses that want to put together marketing materials or do something that will attract people to come to the city. I also asked Nan, I think she's still here, so she can correct me if I say anything incorrectly. But I also requested is that could events put on by like nonprofits that are attracting people regionally. So such as the 4th of July parade, we have Manzanita, it's a charitable event that attracts people. Could those type of events qualify? And the answer is yes. So TCVA would be able to help us and Carolyn go through that award process to award those grants. So that's the 2 differences between the proposal 1. So the total expenses, including the admin fee, would be $67,266 is what we would budget for. Or we would just not have the grant option and it would be $45,866. So my recommendation, it's really up to you. This comes out of the Tourism Promotion Fund. There's sufficient resources to cover that.
This is our fund, not the county's.
This is the City of Manzanita's Tourism Promotion Fund. That's correct.
Leila, can you just speak a little more to what types of businesses the marketing grant would go to? Would they go to?
A Hoffman Center, so anyone, like Hoffman Center did a winter author that brought people in from, they updated their website, their beautiful grants. I think in this case, the Trash and Show might be able to be funded by this. So it's events that not-for-profits put on that actually draw people more than 50 miles.
Is the requirement not for profit?
No.
I don't know. I
I
don't.
mean, could
No.
a restaurant apply? Could
Yes, yeah. So it's, I'm sorry, Bert.
NASA apply? I mean, what's
Correct. Yes.
what's the deal there?
Yeah.
Yeah, any
Definitely.
business can apply. And I suggested that events that draw in people could be also eligible. So any business in the city of Manzanita could apply. And I think the parameters would be, is it promoting
People coming from.
people coming from other places?
I think these are off-season grants, so
Not during the high
4th of
season.
Would
July,
would
not.
not apply.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
so just plan your events in the off-season.
Right.
Yeah, sorry about that. But we would be supporting the 4th of July parade through the staff person. So,
Right.
and then just through staff support that we offer.
So I guess my final question is who oversees those grants? Who oversees giving those grants or?
So the TCVA staff would oversee those, and I'd probably be involved in that process to some extent. I wasn't here when we did off-season grants, so we'll probably have an entirely new process.
It was not for profits before primarily. It was
Okay.
Business. This is expanding it to business, which I think is a great idea.
And I don't think they were always fully used. I think there was always leftover budget.
At the end, that was really true.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to get them out.
Nan, did you have anything to add, or did I misstate anything there?
Yeah, it's really for tourism-based businesses, so that can be retail, restaurants, hotels. Anything, any business that whose business relies on visitors. And as well as nonprofits, as you said.
Oh, okay.
Events and everything, that is just fine. In fact, when we do our promotion grants, it's mostly about events.
Dan?
It's
So
really cool.
what happens in the case? You said that often there's money left on the table.
I just remember that they were promoting it because this was back when our old city council meeting, like 2018. They were promoting it because there was still money left.
I think it's definitely worth doing. And after a year, we can go back and review if it was appropriate or not, but
You mean the grant portion?
the grant portion.
Okay.
For sure.
I was really impressed with the earned media that this group has brought in. Architectural Digest, Oregon Live, 2 on Oregon Live, that Oregon Life and PDX Monthly. It's hard to get media exposure and you have to work at it. And I just thought their proposal here and all of the numbers that they had, the polar plunge and lodging places, it was really a well put together report. So what we're looking for then is an adoption of one or the other.
Yeah, so for council to decide, well, assuming you're supportive of continuing the relationship with.
Okay, so
TCVA,
are we all supportive? Yes, we are all shaking our head.
then which one of these proposals would you recommend that I advance in the budget process?
Okay, thank you. Jenna, do you have a preference?
I like the idea of including a grant.
Yeah, me too. You want to make that motion?
Do you want to do we need any, wait a minute, do we need public comment, Joe?
Oh.
Need that little piece of paper.
I don't think she was kidding about your notes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Unfortunately, it's slightly off topic,
Topic.
but it was the previous topic, and while Stan is still here, I didn't hear anything in that last discussion about how does that whole spreadsheet of stuff happen?
Oh, yeah, well, so that plan is something the city will now have as sort of as Nan mentioned, when we have resources and capacity. It's also a tool we'll use as we start to prioritize implementation of projects. So we'll be coordinating with TCVA because I think there's things that they can help us do. So for example, the wayfinding. And that was a clear one. I actually heard those multiple times throughout the town hall meetings I held last year for Envision Manzanita. So we will collaborate with them when there's opportunities, we'll be opportunistic. And then if there are priorities that kind of overlap with other priorities, we will work towards those. So it's kind of a roadmap that we can implement as we have capacity and resources to do so.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
So
Yes, Mr. Kester?
Is there a formal designation of off-season nowadays?
Yeah.
It's changed over the years.
that's a good question. It's a good.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think,
Nan question?
So late.
yeah, Nan, what do you think?
You know, could you repeat it? I couldn't hear what he was saying.
The question was, is there a distinction, a designation for off-season tourism season?
What is the off season now?
Oh, off-season is usually from September 15th through May 15th. Now you can, and as the council, there may be exceptions to that, and the council can make that decision to make exceptions. And we do it, and our board does it frequently. It depends on the event, or it depends on the, the grant request.
So you can prioritize off season, but if you get a good pitch for
Man, are you
on season, you can still fund it. Okay.
are you saying that we can still fund events during that time period, the on season, if council approves it?
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, and for instance, we had a request in our most recent grant form that there was a summer event, but it was about the David's Chair. And we felt that it was very important to support accessibility programs. And even though it's taking place in July in Pacific City, our board decided to go ahead and grant that money and fund that event because it was an important piece of accessibility programs.
There any other discussion?
I'm sorry, wait.
Yes.
The old days, when the off-season was in we defined shoulder season and winter season. So
Yes.
that, I don't remember the exact dates, but there was a distinction between shoulder.
Yeah.
It happens anymore.
There is, but I think for the grant, we just call it all off-season for the grant. And as far as like TLT collections or room tax collections, there is shoulder and winter. But for the grant process, we just call it off-season, the whole thing.
I think looking at this, I think we have to be careful about that off-season.
I do too.
I think that since there is a $2,000 max, that's good, that we won't, we have plenty of tourism.
Yeah, we do.
June, July, August.
Yeah.
Right. I think this program, I worked on one with the library, Nancy Pearl, with the library in the Hoffman Center, which was a great event that was in January. When no one is here.
Right.
And we were able to fill in CRD. And that was a lot of work, and it was giving money back to our organizations that need money during the off season. It brought all those people in that went to that event, but also stayed here, shopped at our shops, ate at our restaurants.
So there was something around Christmas too. It was the same kind of thing. We opened at the Pine Grove, I believe.
We had a fair, a kids craft.
Yeah. So I really agree with you. I think the previously, we were really strident about that. And the reason was, we really don't need people here during the summer.
month,
And
yeah,
we really want to promote our
May through
businesses.
September.
Yeah, and so that it's a really wonderful tool to do that. And my bet is there's going to be a lot more energy around it too.
And I like, end of May is Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekend. So we're cutting off those two events, which we already have we have the book sale at the end in Memorial Day. Labor Day is Labor Day, but we have our community event.
Right.
So I like the dates of September 15th to May 15th. And I think, if we have a special use case, we can bring that in. So,
Yeah, that would be good.
And I will say that we will conduct a grant writing class prior to the launch of the grant program, and we will take people through the whole process and discuss
That's
things that they
great.
might consider applying for.
Excellent.
Awesome. Good news. Thank you, Nan.
Mhm.
So do we just go through, Jenna, would you be supportive of A or B?
move that we adopt the first scenario budget for the TCVA contract.
The one that includes the grant
That includes the grant.
opportunities. Okay, is there a second for that?
That's the second.
Okay. And Nancy, would you do roll call, please?
Yes. Linda,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Jenna,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much, Nan.
Thank you.
Great work.
Really. Farmers Market event permit is up next. Is there someone speaking? Oh, yep, there is. Kendra. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. As you know, this is our 15th year.
Oh, my gosh.
And so we are very excited to celebrate 15 years of farmers market in Manzanita. We are very excited about how the market has grown, and we're loving our new spot over in the field behind where you're going to build your beautiful new city hall, hopefully. And our board of directors has asked me to thank you for the previous year's use of the field, the help that we got from the city as far as keeping that field green as best we could, and the porta potties and like the things that we needed to keep the public safe during the market. The market this year is going to be running Memorial Day weekend, which is Friday night, May 26th, through September 22nd. We shortened it up to weekends, so we're not tearing down in the dark. I want to share one of the highlights of what we have accomplished here that maybe a lot of you don't realize. Our farmers market is one of the largest on the coast here in Oregon when it comes to actually having farmers. And I truly believe that because we hold it on a Friday night, as a visitor, I plan to get here. I walk through that market, I see those beautiful peaches and those radishes, and I'm just crazy, and I'm gonna buy them all up. I'm gonna take them to my vacation rental and I'm gonna use them or not, but I'm gonna pack them up and take them home, as opposed to showing up on Sunday and going, oh, no. Now I gotta figure out how to unwrap the car and put them in the cooler. And so our vendors and our farmers have done amazing. One of our big pats on the back is last year, we were able to put $8,400 worth of food into the mouths of our community members that suffer from, and I hate to use the word suffer, but experience food insecurity by being able to offer them our SNAP and Double Up Food Bucks program. And that program has been approved for this next year. And we've also been approved for funding to help us pay for our Karen to sit at the table and take care of that for us.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's a big deal, I think. And so I'm really hoping that you will approve us for the next year. And I want to thank you again very much.
Thank you very much.
And I'll just add, Kendra has been coordinating with Dan Weitzel, our Public Works Director, second time around. So we expect things to go really smoothly. So Kendra's done a great job coordinating with staff. We have a plan in place. We have their certificate of insurance. And so we've gone through the whole planning process with them and feel very confident, and they did a great job last year. So
Certainly. And the city provides the restrooms for
we
that?
have historically, and I do plan to put it in this year's budget.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any public discussion? Yes.
Had
And-
a couple of inquiries from some of the people in reference to the $1 billion liability insurance.
Well, they don't,
Explain that a little bit.
it's not $1 million worth of liability.
It's two. And for that, that's our requirement. So that's the minimum tort limit. And so we have to ensure, in terms of our liability, we have to require a certificate of insurance up to $2 million.
And because,
2 million.
and our insurance company requires that our vendors carry insurance. And that we are named as additional named insured along with theirs.
Yep.
And I have, there are several opportunities and places to purchase that insurance that, it should not be, a couple of people have come to me and I've sent them someplace where they should be able to purchase something that is within their budget. But we
What
have,
would be the average for that for 2 million over the cost?
well, it's not 2 million, we're requiring $100,000. Excuse me, $1 million, and that is the $275 per year.
For a year.
For a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would allow the vendor to vend at any market they choose to vend at. It's not just at our, and when you look at what the liability could be, I mean, we all know that everybody's required to have weight on their tent, but I've seen a microburst happen last summer that picked a tent up and it flew. If that tent were to land on someone and say, stab them. It's all
Getting kind of graphic.
God forbid. it flying.
Yeah.
These are the things that I have to be careful with and make sure, and our insurance, if I'm not making sure that all of our vendors have that insurance, our claim could be denied. And the city would deny, and there would be no insurance coverage. And so everyone has to carry the insurance if they're going to vend at the market. It's required.
Any use of city property requires that insurance minimum because we're subject to risk. So if somebody got hurt on our site for that event and we didn't have insurance, we could be liable to get sued for that. So
Vendors aware of this now?
Yes. It's in the handbook, and I did explain to all of them last year that it was going to be required of them this year. So, and it's required at all for other farmers markets.
Yeah.
I know that some of them have, that's not my job to police the other markets, but I know that they're required by their insurance company to make sure that their vendors have it. And so I need to make sure that my job is to make sure that everybody's following the rules.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Is there any, are there any other questions?
There's a hand raised.
Yes, on the screen?
Yes.
Do you have it there, Jess?
Hi, it's Catherine Stock.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Hey, just a protocol question or request, please. As people are asking questions, could you be sure they're identifying themselves, please?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
In fact, I did want to, if I may, this is
Yes.
Kate, Mayor,
Go for it.
if you do have a question, we'll put up a second chair to the dais because we also, I think it's hard to get the audio as well. And it's just more appropriate that folks actually come up to the dais and make their comment and state their name. So working through this.
Yeah.
Hey, and before I get unmuted, just one thing. I was not sure at all how the multi-format thing would be working tonight. But so far, it's, not being in the room, it's covered really well. We could hear everything. And so this is really good for a first time.
good.
So thanks.
Thanks. Now it's gonna all fall apart. Thanks, Catherine.
And
Jerry?
just wanted to ask a couple of questions. That was great news on the amount of SNAP and double bucks participation. I'm just curious about two things. One is, you have a lot of non-food vendors. So the food vendors, how many participate in SNAP?
Okay, so, SNAP and Double Up Food Bucks,
Yeah.
how that works is SNAP is the same as is your EBT.
Right.
And so anyone that is selling fruit, vegetables, anything that is ready to eat,
Right.
those kind of things, other than the hot food,
Right. I get it.
okay?
They all
And
participate,
so pardon me,
all of them participate?
everybody that can does participate.
Okay,
Everybody that is capable of selling the fruit, selling the vegetable, they all take the SNAP.
Okay.
We make sure that
okay.
they have that opportunity also.
Good. That's good. That's not always the case at all farmers markets. So that's good.
I'm very big in food insecurity
Okay.
and that's.
I'm glad.
People.
I'm working with you on this one. I'm trying to get information out that is
Yes.
to the cause. Now, that sounds like an impressive number, but I'm wondering, is that the product of concerted outreach effort? Are you doing anything to make sure that?
We will be, part of the grant money that I just received, we will be doing some outreach up at the food pantries to let people know what they can get, because the Double Up Food Bucks program, if you come in and run your card at the SNAP, for $20 worth of SNAP tokens,
Yep.
we are capable of giving you another $20.
Mhm.
And so that gives you $40 worth of, but the Double Up Food Bucks can only be spent on fresh fruit and produce.
Right. And the only point I'm making is that this is a great opportunity to address to some extent food insecurity, but it's not one that is always understood by both vendor and consumer. So I'm just,
Right.
you sound like you're aware of that and you're doing what you need to do.
Yes, last year was my first year and I didn't understand it either. So now that I realize what a resource it is to everyone, because that money comes in, runs through our machine. It's handed out to the people that need the food. They take it and spend it on food and vegetables
Right.
from our local farmers. So it comes back into our community.
Sure.
And so that's very exciting news to me. I mean, it's very exciting to me that we're able to provide that service for the whole community.
It's wonderful.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You have another comment on Zoom?
Okay, and can we get the name and address? Are you there?
She has to unmute.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to say too that the Manzanita Farmers Market is on North Coast Food Trail. And we do promotion for the Manzanita Farmers Market through that collaboration on the North Coast.
And just for the record, thank you. Can we get your name and address?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Nan Devlin, P.O. Box 1270, Manzanita.
Gotcha. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Any other further discussion? Is there a motion to approve the contract?
I'll move
The event permit.
contract.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Brad seconded it. Nancy, would you do roll call, please?
Yes, Linda,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Jenna,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Deb.
Yes. Thank you, Nancy. Council goals.
Yes, thank you.
Council goals resolution include level up, which as part of the modern technology, the budget forward, which is diversified income, and envision Manzanita, which is kind of an update of the comp plan. Plus enhancing council opportunities for direct outreach with citizen engagements. So we've looked at these goals. We've been through them several times. Is there any discussion on council about resolution to adopt the goals?
Well, I would just like to note for the public's benefit that the first three goals are a continuation of the last council's goals, but all three of those were written, I think, with a very forward-looking perspective and the expectation that they would all carry on beyond that particular council. So that's a good example of how one council sort of passes the baton to another, the way we operate, particularly with staggered terms. It's the fourth council goal, council communication, which is new to the list. And I think it's proven to be a very wise and serious undertaking by this council. It's a work in progress. We're moving forward on it, but I think it's a nice complement to the three carryover goals.
Yeah, I had that one highlighted as well because it's something we're all taking very seriously. And that one has to do with creating more opportunities for direct engagement with citizens to ensure that all voices in the community are heard on a regular basis and expand resources online for citizens to stay informed and engaged. So I think that's a real commitment by all of us. And I like seeing that one there. Is there any public comment on the goals? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I move to adopt the resolution.
Thank you, Linda. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jenna. And Nancy, would you do roll call, please?
First, Linda,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Jenna,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Deb.
Yes. Hello, Chief Hart. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Evening.
Good evening.
First thing that I'm here to talk about will be this code enforcement position that we're. Code enforcement has been talked about for at least I know 15 years that I've heard it. And then last couple of years, it's been more and more discussed, and last council brought up the idea of having a person that could interact with the short-term rentals and more the tourists type thing. So we've done a lot of discussing and came up with this code position, which isn't the normal code position that just goes and writes tickets. It's a code position that can work with the neighbors of short-term rentals to then reach out and work with the short-term rental committee, work with the council, work just kind of be the liaison between the tourism community and the resources. But in that, they would still be able to write parking tickets in the busy weekends, or they would have some kind of enforcement ability to do what's needed on a non-police level. My vision for this position would be to work over the weekends. It'd be a 5-day-a-week job. The hours might have to be flexible as we kind of learn what's needed, what's necessary. But if a noise complaint, say, for example, a noise complaint comes in at a short-term rental or not short-term rental, or we don't know what it is when the noise complaint comes in, if it's a short-term rental or not short-term rental. But we don't know when we're responding to that, if it's a domestic disturbance, if it's just some people in the hot tub being loud or what the situation is. So no matter what on that scenario, a police officer would be the one to respond. And so I don't see this new code position needing to work late at night. I'd rather them be midday, early evening type, when there's a lot of people around the community and out and about. Any kind of a situation that a police officer would respond to that turns out to be a short-term rental, then they can just refer, deal with whatever needs to be dealt that night and refer it to the code officer for follow-up so that we can track problems with certain rentals or however that needs to be done. So the majority of this position will be related to tourism and enforcing tourism related issues. Community outreach, attending as many meetings or functions as necessary to just be that liaison.
That'd be great.
And in the discussion with that, it was discussed earlier, but the city manager reached out to Nan and the discussion of funding, which I think 75% is kind of where we're at right now. We feel is tourism related. And so 75% of that funding will be able to pull out of the transient lodging.
Fantastic.
That is
Fantastic.
wonderful news.
For the stellar position.
Right.
And
So Eric, on the code enforcement, I think the concern of the short-term rental committee is managing things like parking and lighting, which at 8 o'clock at night may not be evident. So would the police that responded to that, if it were, excess parking?
if a complaint comes in, pretty much like that would be a non-emergency type situation.
Right.
So it can be followed up on the next day. And if the code enforcement officer, which hopefully that person will have a phone number that the community can reach out to directly for code related issues. And if it's something that came into a police officer and they could refer it to the code officer, if they're not working after dark, they could just work with the police officer. Hey, can you go take some pictures? Give me your opinion on the lighting, or still work with the
With
police
code
department,
enforcement.
but it wouldn't be a situation where we'd have to have that person out there at 10 o'clock to deal with the lighting issue when it can be handled the next day. It's not an emergency.
Eric, what about the state park? Would this
So
tie in there?
part of the police contract, we do, some of it is like day use permits.
Yeah, right.
At the state park, and depends on how
The schedule.
busy that position is what they're doing, but we might be able to utilize that person to do the state park, no day use permit.
So are they still doing, didn't they stop it for a while? Didn't-
No, we still go out, the police officers go out there daily.
Okay.
And write citations for no day use permits,
Okay,
which it doesn't need a police officer to do that. And so if we're busy in town, that might be something that they can run out there for 15, 20 minutes and handle that, which the state park funding is part of our contract, and we keep it timesheet.
Mhm.
And so we bill the state park
Right.
for the hours that we use up to a certain amount. So
So those hours could be.
back if we utilize that position to take up some of our police officers. work.
so we don't get the fine, we're paid.
We get the
Parks we do.
parks we do. We get
Okay,
100%
okay.
of the citation revenue, and they pay us per hour.
Okay,
And if this is approved tonight, would the position be posted?
Well, it would the position would probably not start until July 1.
Okay.
To wait to have it included in the budget. So tonight, if you approve the position, then that gives me what I need to put it into the budget.
Okay,
But we would start the hiring process soon.
soon. Okay.
so they'd be.
I think
ready to
it's
start.
it's gonna take a while to, find the right person. This person's gonna have to have great community service skills. It's gonna have to be a
Unicorn,
certain person.
a unicorn.
Yeah, it is.
God, your whole team are unicorns.
Yeah. We get lucky and find that perfect person, but
Yeah,
it will take the perfect person to.
It really
Well,
will.
So if they're out there,
I have to say, I went through your job description and I was so impressed with how broad and detailed and specific it was. It was really well thought out, well organized.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was kind of a multi person, being Officer Mike Sims, started it with using, we took what Cannon Beach has for their code enforcement position. We took what Tillamook has for their position.
Yeah,
We took the parts that we felt fit with what we're looking for, then we added the rest that
right.
really fit what we need to.
Yeah, it was,
And then we had Layla review it, and I'm sure she added her voice on it. And no, I think it turned out to be a good job.
it was a nice job. Very nice.
Chief, are you looking at a year-round position for this? And if so, if they're mostly, and maybe I misunderstood, but if they're mostly dealing with STR types of issues, what are they gonna be doing in the off-season?
there's a lot of community engagement work.
I mean, are they gonna have anything to do with construction noise?
So, yeah.
That type of stuff?
This position will include the right of way complaints that we get, that Public Works usually gets.
Yes.
Building, there's a lot of building work that's done on the weekends when our building inspector is not around, that contractors come in on the weekend and, you know, we get messages from the building department say, hey, can you watch this house and make sure nobody's working here? If you guys either don't have permits or they don't have a CCB or something. So instead of us doing that code position can be keeping an eye on the building code stuff. So it's going to be a full encompass of building right away. From all our city ordinances.
I feel like we've also delayed or not gone through with city ordinances because we don't have enforcement.
Right.
And one of those being maybe night sky lights. So this would eventually.
Yeah, this position will have to be really involved in our current ordinances and going through them and saying, do we need to adjust what we have?
Yeah. So hopefully we can push some of those.
Right, and besides that, it lets policemen do what policemen do and gives to a non-policeman.
Yeah, I mean, we get all kinds of animal calls that.
Yeah.
We don't need to be the one that goes and deals with it. So it will allow that freedom for us to break away from some of those.
Is this person going to be directly accessible by public? Or do they have to work?
The plan is yes, that we'll have a dedicated cell phone that when they're at work off duty, I expect them to shut it off. And we go to voicemail because anything that's urgent, they can call the police department. But I want to be able to have it so it can be anybody can reach out to the code enforcement officer, especially for short-term rental complaints.
And it's not specifically spelled out, but this position would work with the short-term rental committee
Definitely.
at their monthly meetings.
I expect it.
Yeah.
To attend.
And a key piece of it too is coordination with TCVA on a quarterly basis. So, and Eric, when he talks about the next position, talk about the structure in which this person will report to. But one thing I did want to point out too is that while it is about enforcement, it's also about engagement. And so part of it is like during the off season, there may be opportunities for this enforcement. We were trying to think is it should be a community, outreach officer, but there's also education and outreach. And so during off season, I can see this person being more engaged in doing education and outreach and safety related things so that we can get that to the short-term rental community. Having this person, they won't wear a police uniform, obviously, but they will have sort of City of Manzanita uniform of some type so that they're a visible person that is out there. And I think maybe some of us might remember the khaki pants guy. So I do want to give a shout out to counselors, not all, started this ball rolling last year and actually during the budget process, had staff allocate $20,000 towards the position to be sort of a temporary kind of weekend job. And so staff took that very seriously, but then as Eric and I started working through the process, and certainly with the chief's experience in this field, that we collectively didn't feel that that was sufficient to meet the need. And so we've been working on this for quite some time to see if there's a way to find alternate funding sources to support it. But we felt we needed a full-time position. So I want to thank Councilor Nuttall for pushing us.
Yeah.
But we hopefully are proposing something that is going to be, a permanent solution and a new resource for the city that I think more than over delivers on what we were asked to do last year. So, and that's in large part due to the chief's attention to this and working through it with me ad nauseum. So.
Well, I think it's really exciting. The code enforcement is important, but the education outreach and the, actually touching and feeling and talking to people in not an adversarial relationship, but an educational relationship is really important. And I really liked your comment about they're going to public meetings. One of the things that we've discovered, or the short-term rental committee is really aware of, is that there are rules and regulations that probably only 5% of the city of Manzanita or even visitors know. And so this outreach and education is going to be a really critical component, and probably reduce some of the code enforcement if people actually understand what the rules are and why. And so you're right, it's going to take a very special person to do that.
And I mean, like at this point, the short-term rental committee, I couldn't tell you what's been discussed ever. So
Right.
there is a disconnect between
Right.
who might have to or will enforce some things, or even the short-term rental ordinance that was.
Well, it's kind of like this. You're both doing the
Yeah.
same thing, but you're not quite
There
talking.
hasn't been that connection.
Right.
This should fill in that connection.
That's going to be great. Really great.
So two things, Eric, the requirement, education requirement to apply for the job is a high school diploma or equivalent. And they would have to have a valid Oregon driver's license and proof of an acceptable driving record. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, and a basic background check.
Basic background.
No felonies. They're still gonna have to be, they'll operate out of the police department, so they're still gonna have to be cleared
Sure,
to be in enforcement.
right.
Around our computers. The cost, they would use one of our, I've had a vehicle on order through Ford since last September. They only gave us like 2 months to order a vehicle, or 2 weeks to order a vehicle last year. And I got her order in for the replacement vehicle, and Ford hasn't even assigned a VIN number to that build yet because of supply issues. So
Wow.
so there's a delay on replacing these cars, but we should have the one that was supposed to be replaced this year. So the old car will be available. And then I'm supposed to replace my vehicle next budget year.
Okay.
Which I'm assuming that both these vehicles will get replaced next budget year, since the one I already ordered hasn't been built yet. So they'll end up driving probably the car I drive now.
Okay.
Would be the vehicle that code enforcement would use. And then it wouldn't have, we probably get some
That logo.
stickers like what
Yeah.
the horse has.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
labels what it is.
Mhm.
So beyond that cost, we're just looking at, fuel.
Yeah.
Basic cell phone, computer fees, so it won't add a lot to the materials and services budget line of
Okay.
my department.
So do we approve this? Oh, public opinion.
Yeah.
You have to come to every meeting, Joe.
Well.
Public opinion, okay, let's do. Paula?
Yes.
Do you want to state your name and,
Paula DeRay, I'm sitting at 68 Highlands.
okay? Question?
Yes, yes, yes. Please.
Yes, you got it. You're on record. Joe, did you have something?
I did, and a couple of things, so I'm going to do as we last and.
Thank you.
I'm Joan Newhouse, and I can't speak on behalf of the old short-term rental work group. Because I haven't talked to the rest of them, but I know that they would all be thrilled that this has come to fruition. And I agree with Layla, it's not a khaki pants guy, it's a unicorn person. Guy or gal, unicorn person.
He, she, they, them, we'll take it.
And I think it's great. I was all prepared to come and complain to you that there's no way that you could have a code enforcement for short-term rentals on noise if they didn't work late, but you've convinced me otherwise. So as long as, because noise is a thing that people do complain about. I do have a concern about parking and lighting. One of the things that the short-term rental committee has found is that people don't complain to the right people. They complain to their neighbors. And so we hear all the time, there's light shining in my bedroom window. They're short-term rentals, they should be, taken off the face of the earth. But they don't call the agent or the owner. They also don't call the police. So you're not gonna get a lot of times the complaints about the lighting, which we have an ordinance for, and as Linda says, a lot of people don't know what the ordinances are, which is part of the new short-term rental committee's purpose, is to help get that information out. And this unicorn person is going to be a great help for that. But if people don't complain to the agent or the owner or the police about the lighting or about the parking overnight, it doesn't mean it isn't happening. And I think if we want a code enforcement person to have an effect, they need to at least sometimes get out there when it's dark. And so I would hope that somehow you can get that to happen, even if they don't, and maybe, they don't approach the large party. But if they drive through at night and they notice that these are short-term rentals and these are lights that are shining inappropriately, or this is a floodlight that's on all the time, where they've left their porch light on all the time, where there's 10 cars parked on the street and there's not supposed to be, there's only supposed to be one. They can do something about it, because they're not going to get the complaints, as you said. It doesn't work that.
Yeah, and I mean, in wintertime, they will be out there.
Yes.
But
Could I offer just a
yeah,
couple thoughts on that? Because you and I have actually talked about this and maybe you're about to say it, but one thing is we'll have a dedicated line. So even when that person's off duty, we'll have a line that, because I think people, at least what I've heard from members of the community too, they don't want to call the police on their neighbors. But if part of this position is education and outreach, then the neighbors should have that number and know I can call Khaki Pants and tell them this is happening. And then maybe the next time that person's on duty, they can investigate that situation. So there may be opportunities to do that. And then I'm sure too, with staffing, Eric might find as we kind of go into the process that maybe they do rounds once a shift in the evening and note issues, because what this person.
I think the schedule is going to have to be
Yeah.
flexible once we
Yeah.
figure out what's needed.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a code enforcement complaint form on the website
Yep.
where people could fill it out and it would get emailed directly to that officer.
Yeah.
So,
That'd be cool.
I think reasonably too. A lot of these houses are rented at least through a weekend and maybe an entire week. So, they wouldn't necessarily have to go every night, but if you,
Right.
have one night when
and just the outreach of this new position to go in the communities and, I mean, short-term rentals there's certain areas where there's more than other spots. And so, if they really spend a lot of time outreach, trying to talk to the neighbors, just to say, hey, what are the issues in this area? What do I need to be looking for?
Right.
Hopefully that'd be enough to draw out just some face-to-face complaints from the neighborhood of what to look for.
Right.
And that's like a perfect off-season activity.
Yeah.
Right? Like doing a mailer to the neighbors that are in that community, having a forum here and discussing that, and that will help, So I think there's, when talking with Eric over the last year, there's a lot of creativity and I know He's very creative. Don't let him fool. Creativity and how we will implement this. And I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. So
Well, I'm really,
This is my second part.
Your time is up, Joe. Make it
Under
quick.
essential functions, you've talked about the need to coordinate with the short-term rental committee. And I agree, and if that person wants to come to the meetings, I don't know whether you need to make it another ad hoc position or whether you just have the person come to the meetings. But in the essential functions, number 3 is assist and coordinate community outreach programs to research programs to address livability concerns related to tourism. And then I would add, and in conjunction with the STR committee related specifically to STRs. I would just add the phrase that says, in conjunction with the STR committee related specifically to STRs, so that it's clear that we're working together.
Does that fall under number?
It's under
17,
essential functions
Under
number
all other
3.
duties as assigned?
yes. I would prefer it fall under there.
I was just thinking like, what if the short-term rental committee doesn't exist in a year for whatever reason, or
I think it's
It just-
more appropriate to do other duties.
it would be assigned. It would be assigned,
Promise.
yes.
Okay.
He's on the
I
record.
have a policeman's word.
Yeah.
That is definitely,
I just, because the other thing I don't want is to have a adversarial relationship. The short-term rental committee wanted to do that. The unicorn wanted to do that. You know, I want it to be a partnership because I think it's such a good position.
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I just want to make sure that it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotcha.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think we are ready to, we're gonna approve.
Separate or?
Do you want to do, because he has there's
Separately?
another position too, so it's
Right.
up to you guys, how you want to handle it.
Any more comments? Or not?
We
Or
can,
you shutting it down? Or-
no. Go right ahead.
Okay,
You have to
State your name, yeah.
say your name and address.
I appreciate the officer coming here.
Yes,
Yeah. As a short-term.
name and address, please.
Brian Bateman, 8920 Spindrift Lane.
Thank you.
And we spent a lot of time in Manzanita, but we also, our home is also a short-term rental home. And so I think as far as code compliance is concerned, that it's important to have them here at night. You know, when we're staying here, there was a lot of noise in a short-term rental. We're about ready to call a non-emergency number. And so I think that it's important to have coverage for code enforcement at night as well. And it seems like, I looked at the online submittals about short-term rentals, and the major complaint was noise. That seems to be the number one. And also to reference, the individual that got up to speak about the lighting. As a short-term rental owner, we are we have to be compliant with the dark sky. And so when you have your inspection, we just had our inspection.
Yeah.
And we had to change our lighting to, dark sky, which is great. And, I had no problem with that. I think it's important. And, but anyway, with the code enforcement, I just would like to make the appeal to have coverage at night, because what happens, it's just human nature. You wait until you get really agitated before you call. And, there's a lot of noise. It can be a permanent resident home too. It's not to say,
Right.
It's all short-term rental. But I think sometimes the party atmosphere does sort of synergize when there's a lot of people that go to a short-term rental home. And so I'm just wondering if, so I just making an appeal that we would have access to code enforcement at night as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. Are there any other public comments?
Eric, you want to start it?
I mean, I feel like we've hit on that, and that really, if there is a complaint of that caliber at night, it needs to go to the police, and that the enforcement officer should be out there and making that known. And so
And then the police will contact the code enforcement person, so they'll be able to follow up on it next day. But really, the police are the ones you want out there at night.
And like police department wise, we 3-4 a year complaints that we get actually for noise complaints is all. If it turned out to be that more people were utilizing this complaint form or leaving messages for this code enforcement officer, and we found out that, wow, we are getting a lot, then we might adjust the schedule to do that. But I think there is a police officer working in the evening to address those things. If someone would just report it to like non-emergency dispatch, and that might be part of the conversation the code enforcement officer has with people is, okay, if this actually happens, this is the number that you should be calling after hours. So that needs to be a conversation or something that we want.
Yeah, we all want to be a addition to the community and a positive addition to the community.
Me too. Yeah.
And it's definitely not all short-term rentals, it's second
Yeah.
homes just as much as.
Mhm. That's right, people. Thank you. I think we'll move ahead and get a resolution approval on this for the code enforcement. Is there a?
It'd just be, the motion would be, if I may, to approve the job description, position description, and the salary range. For
Okay, for the code enforcement position.
Correct.
All right, is there?
So I move to approve the code enforcement position description and salary.
Okay. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Jerry seconded. Thank you. And Nancy, would you do roll call, please?
Linda,
Definitely.
Terry,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So Eric, tell us about the sergeant position.
The next proposal I have is a police sergeant position, which is not adding a, it's not adding a full-time position to the department, it's just adding a job description. So it would be an internal position that's already exists. Currently, as the police chief and then 3 police officers, I'm the only supervisory officer in the department. So I'm responsible for everything supervisory, from signing off reports to answering questions.
Even when you're on vacation.
Even on weekends at
Yes.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
It's me, and there's times where I'm not a bit. And so then if something comes up, then we got to figure out, is, do they have to get referral to the Tillamook DA or the sheriff's office or someone else with some supervisory authority that can answer the question. My goal is to have a position that we can promote, a sergeant position, take up some of those duties when I'm not available, when I'm on my days off. Also to directly supervise this code position. The sergeant position would work opposite shifts of myself, which I'm not the one that's working the weekends, and so the sergeant who would be a direct supervisor to this code enforcement position would be working at the same time. So so they would be able to do the training and supervision of that position directly. Some of the other duties they'd be able to do press releases, fulfill records requests. There's a bunch of meetings that countywide that I attend or don't attend or don't have time to attend. They don't necessarily need the chief to attend all of them. So I would have this position attend some of those meetings that don't necessarily need to be the chief. I also, when someone gets hired for our police department, they're a police officer and there's no room for growth within the department until a chief leaves. And so, they could be, someone could be there for 15, 20 years with no room to grow or to move up in the department. So adding this position at least gives an officer that gets hired something to look forward to, that they can promote to a higher position and more responsibilities. For this position, it'll require from the state, DPST, like an additional like 24 hours a year in leadership training specifically. In the first year, they have to have, it's an 80-hour supervisory course, or it can be, we can break it up and do it quickly, but so there's specific training that's required by the state within the first year and then continue education, but and also at this point, there's 5, 10, 15, however many years until I retire, there's no replacement succession plan.
Right.
So, having a sergeant position, to start doing those supervisory roles, learn what I have to do monthly for reporting, all the required things. Somebody else can be learning that and make an easier transition in the future.
Sounds good.
I think it's really smart.
Chief, you got somebody, in the department that's, interested in that
so-
position?
We have 2 people have been here over 10 years and 1 person at 6 years. I've had internal discussions and I think I have the person, but there will be a process to go through for make sure and appoint that person. But definitely have the personnel as a part of that position.
Okay, yeah, I just wondered if there's.
Yeah, no, there's definitely interest. There is some interest. Great.
I just hope people realize what you just said. You've been here for 20 years. You have 2 policemen that have been here for 10.
Over, like, I think one's
Going on year 13.
110 and maybe 13 and then 6.
And then 6, that is amazing. And to replace a policeman, I remember going through the replacement. It takes forever. And first of all, it takes forever to find them. And once you find them and they fit, because the group, because there has to be that culture fit, then you train them. And so you don't get them for a year
Exactly.
after you've gone out to hire them. I mean, it's a excruciating process. And I think it's because of your leadership that we have the longevity that we have. And I congratulate you for that, because that is really, really significant. And training your successor, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
So thank you, Eric. That's a great idea.
And having a different kind of vacation.
And having a vacation.
I'm a big supporter of time off.
So is there any public comment or discussion? Okay, so can I have a resolution to approve a sergeant position for the police department?
I move that we accept the job description for the police sergeant and compensation.
Okay, thank you, Linda. And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, Nancy, would you do roll call, please?
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jenna,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Yes.
Congratulations, chief.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you. Well done. Are we going then to salary?
Yeah, and then Eric, you
Can
can
come back to him?
stay there.
Just sit there
This will hopefully be quick.
and a quick.
Yeah, so just for folks, I know every year we pass a salary resolution. We do it in advance of the budget. And so that way I have council approval for salaries, and then I can include that into the city's budget proposal. So I presumed that we would pass these 2 positions. So those are also included in the salary schedule. For those of you that don't know, the city's does a salary survey every 4 years. So we just did one last year and kind of leveled up our staff to, I think, a livable or more livable wage. So this year, the proposal is for just a cost of living adjustment. And I'm recommending a 6% cost of living adjustment. And the basis for that is that we use the Western Consumer Price Index to determine the rate of inflation. And the rate of inflation has not dropped below 6% since October of 2021.
Wow.
A couple of other points I did want to make is the cost of food has increased 9% and the cost of housing has increased 8%. And so I feel strongly that for staff to maintain a livable wage out here, particularly when food costs are much higher, our community, that a 6% COLA is appropriate adjustment for this year's salary schedule. So the salary schedule you see before you reflects that.
Is there any public comment? Is there a motion to accept the salary schedule for city employees for the fiscal year 23-24 at a 6% cost of living adjustment?
I'll make that motion, but I first want to ask Leila. So am I recalling that last year that the COLA was 7%?
With 7.
Okay, so, and I asked that because that's a hopeful sign that we're,
Yeah.
at least in terms of inflation, we're turning in the right direction. Do you have any sense at this point, looking ahead, are we, I think it would become challenging if we had to, do COLAs in this range on, yeah. Do you have any sense at all of things getting?
As much as the Fed does.
All right.
But I hear you, and that's, I think, something we need to think about is that inflation is high and we have very limited control over that. And so that's affecting our costs significantly. Yeah. The budget modeling I'm doing includes a 6% increase into the future. So I am projecting out conservatively just so that we're prepared. I hope we can get back to a world in which inflation is 3% for all of us.
Yeah, okay.
But that's a great point. Thank you.
All right, then I will go ahead and make the motion
Gary
to.
made the motion, and do we have a second?
Second.
Second, by Linda, thank you. Nancy, would you do roll call, please?
Linda.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Jenna.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
Deb.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's also a good time, Leila, to thank you for all that you do for us.
Well, thank you.
It is not up there, but no, we appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, we're moving into old business and Eric, you've got the homelessness in public spaces ordinance. In November 2022, council heard Chief Harth discuss HB 3115 and HB 3124 regarding the new rules of enforcement for removing homeless people from public property. The council directed the staff to work with the city attorney and draft an ordinance for the council review. Sound about right?
Yeah, before I start that, I just want to make a comment about the position real quick. That position will not have a residency requirement like the police does. So the police is required to live within a response time. And I won't have that requirement for the position, and partly it's because of housing.
Housing.
Yeah.
So that's how I brought that up. Like, there is good luck finding housing posts, especially for a salary at that level. So it won't include a residence requirement. So hopefully we can pull people in from further away versus like our position was limited to.
Is there a room at the fire department that can be rented out?
Only if they're, well, I don't know their policies now.
It's-
Say if they were a member of the fire.
Fire department, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
it's retention.
So, to go on to the, I did have a couple slides, but I don't think I need them. I'll cover unless it's easy. It's.
You've got you down. Throw it in. We'll try.
Let's see. Probably will do.
No. Oh, you want me to screen share?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Is this a safe thumb drive?
Or no.
With IT guys here, yeah, you had to take something off my computer.
It's nice to hear laughter in a city council meeting, I have to say. Really nice to have you all.
And
This will just be a quick review of what we covered in November, why we're doing this and the proposed.
Because there's a problem with your drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I guess it's not it. Okay, there's been, in the last 3 or 4 years, different case laws that have came down regarding, homeless individuals, being cited or arrested for. And so, the first one that kind of came out was a Boise, Idaho case. And, the Ninth Circuit Court came back and said that, pretty much you can't punish someone. And so, that took away a lot of the ability to cite. There was a grants pass case that is currently, I think, being reviewed by the it was, again, you can't, if a person doesn't have access to a shelter, it gave different criteria about why someone couldn't be have access to a shelter. But it also said you can't punish people for not being or being homeless and not being on the campus side. So then House Bill 3115 came along, and that required that any city or county law regulating the acts of sitting, lying, sleeping, or keeping warm and dry outside on public property must be objectively reasonable based on the totality of circumstances as applied to all stakeholders, including the persons experiencing homelessness. But it retained the city's ability to enact a reasonable time, place, and manner regulation, aiming to preserve the ability of cities to manage public spaces effectively for the benefit of the entire community. But that gave an implementation date of July 1st, 2023, that had to be completed by. And a separate House Bill 3124 came out, and it was geared towards how to deal with an established campsite and the restrictions that cities have on removing people's personal property from an established campsite where you have to post notice and keep the property for a certain amount of time. And so our goal is to not let established campsite be developed. And so part of that is creating an ordinance that had the time, place, manner restrictions with it. And we started off with city ordinance that Cannon Beach had created. We removed a lot of things that didn't really pertain to us and kind of edited that down. That's gone back and forth to, I'm way down there now.
Keep rolling.
All right, we can actually, you can go to that one. So I'll go with that. So our current city ordinances, that we have two of them that really address camping. The first main one that I'm hoping or that we're gonna have to repeal is ordinance 94-6. And it's deals with public places. And it lists vehicles, trailers, pretty much a blanket, you can't camp in public spaces in the city of Manzanita. Now, because of House Bill, first one it was, we can't have that anymore. We have to allow some place for somebody to stay warm and dry overnight, but we can set the time. Ordinance 94-11, we're not going to change that. That's going to still stay in effect because it deals with camping vehicles and more private property, which we're only required to change the public property. And so we're going to leave the 94-11 ordinance as is. Go ahead and go to the next one. So the news ordinance we came up with has definitions for camping, campsite, camp facilities, which you can't really see it, but it includes vehicles, trailer structures. So that incorporates what we already enforce is people camping in vans or cars or sprinter vans on the side streets. That's still all included in this ordinance. And it just goes through the definition of all the different possible items that somebody could use to create a camp. The next one. And so the new ordinance pros that's gone back and forth to the attorney a few times, and this is what we've came up with. So we'll actually restrict camping anywhere in the city from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So anywhere in the city, you cannot have a tent, tarp, or anything set up between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m., you cannot have a camp set up within a park, on a street, road, highway, all the things that are listed there. So it does leave a few spots that's city-owned public property that's not included in those
What are those?
listed items.
What are those?
Those are, the basketball court, next to the police department wouldn't be included in that.
What about the parking lot across?
The parking lot across the street would not be included in that.
Okay.
Underhill Plaza property at this time would not be included in that. There's some, property across from the Public Works that
Okay,
there that wouldn't be included in that definition. Up by the treatment plant, up in that area that the city owned, that would not be included in that. So
so
there's,
there are numerous.
there's several
Yeah.
places that, that would not be included, but, you know, the hope is to be able to, you know, assist people with, getting to other cities with resources, you know, like we have no resources up here. So our first goal would be trying to assist somebody to getting to Tillamook or Seaside or somewhere that has, resources for them.
Right.
But if they get dropped off on the bus at, you know, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and they're gonna need to camp somewhere, which we have that happen anyways.
Mhm.
There is certain areas that we can't allow them to be, but we just have to make sure that by 7 a.m. the next morning, that they're packing up their stuff.
The interesting part about that is the places that you've identified, at least the one at the parking lot, has bathroom access, is close to the bus. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
And when it's blowing 70 miles an hour, raining 3 inches that night, I mean, we're not gonna tell somebody they can't be in the bathroom and stay warm.
Yeah,
So
good.
there is options out there,
Yeah.
but we definitely have to stay on top of making sure that it's for those hours only, and that person has everything packed up and moved along. You know.
So what happens along Ocean Road?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that
Is
same
it-
thing.
You
So-
don't monitor that at all?
No, it's outside the city limits, and so our city ordinance does not apply to any of Ocean Road.
Okay.
I wondered that too.
Is there, so it's 7 AM to 9 PM. Is there any wiggle room about using like a dusk to dawn measure of time rather than a number of time? That,
I think for the time, place, manner, like
Yeah.
be specific.
yeah, okay.
And that's, I mean, this is a tool that we
Yep.
can use to enforce. It doesn't mean that because it's 7:01 in the middle of winter and it's been dark for 2 hours that we're gonna to do so. We're still gonna have to be reasonable about what we're doing.
Could you foresee the code enforcement guy having any role in helping to enforce or?
Hopefully, we never have.
Guy or.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping that we never have that. For instance, you know, it's, we do probably run across 3 or 4 people a month.
Okay.
At this point, I would say. But a lot of, say a lot, a few are mentally, you know.
Yeah.
Have mental issues, and so, it's good to have a police officer try to interact with some of these individuals.
Do you ever take them to Tillamook?
Yes. Yeah,
Because they have.
Yes, if they're ever taken to Tillamook.
we need to get more, but we've had bus tokens that the city has purchased to give to people to get to their next destination that might have services. It actually happens quite a bit where a police officer might drive them to Tillamook to the transportation center. Sometimes it's better to, especially when we get multiple calls on somebody, because a lot of times it doesn't do any good to take somebody to jail. So, you know, there's been times where it could probably be a disorderly conduct or different issues that come up, but there's other times that we just said taking to jail, which does no good.
Yeah.
At some certain instances that we would give them a ride to Tillamook. And if we do that, we let the Tillamook Police Department know that, hey, we bringing this guy down, and actually it just happened last week, and Officer Mooney took somebody down there, contacted the Potomac City. The officer was able to give him a bus pass to get him to Lincoln City. Because the guy was heading that way or something. So
Okay.
I think Potomac City was able to give him a blanket and a bus. So the agencies are kind of working together, trying to do what we can.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. Eric's been really helpful and he's assigned Officer Sims to help me with the House Bill 4123, which is the homeless services pilot project that the city Tillamook County received.
Okay.
And part of that is the reason why I appreciated Eric dedicating some staff time to that is because the police are on the front lines of what we're dealing with here. And I'm understanding that they're making a significant contribution to that organization. So we are trying to coordinate with the county on these services as they advance that pilot project. So we're actively engaged in that work as well. So that will only benefit what we're trying to do here.
Okay.
And there's a separate like task force with.
That's right.
the sheriff's
Yeah.
Office and other police agencies that Mike meets with.
Right.
Okay.
And Eric too has been meeting monthly with the chiefs in the county as well. So.
Do we take public comment?
Oh, so this was actually going to be on the work session next month. The first reading will have to be at next regular council meeting, and the second reading of the following one to get it done before July 1. But this was more of a informational, and if you have any comments regarding the ordinance, if we need to adjust something before next month.
I was curious if the storage of personal property changes in the next ordinance amendment.
Hoping that we don't have to store personal property, but unless it's a campsite that was established that we've had to post, and then we've had instances where there's property left from
Right.
a possible homeless person that we end up with at the station, then we're required, just as any other found property, to keep it for a certain amount of time.
Right.
And go through there's an ORS for that.
Mm.
So we have to follow certain rules, any kind of found property.
That will just continue forward.
That is,
what we.
that's a ORS, it's already
Okay.
established.
Okay. Okay, all right. So the staff recommends that the city repeals the language contained in the current city ordinance regarding camping 94.6 and adopts the new camping ordinance 23.1. And the staff recommends leaving ordinance 9411 as it is because it relates specifically to private property. That all sound good. The staff recommendation is for staff to prepare ordinance for the first reading in May. And changes are required to be in place by July 1st, 2023. You have that right? Is there any other discussion? Okay, Eric,
So
thank
if there's
you.
no questions or comments, then I won't be here probably at next council meeting.
Wants me to run his ordinance.
No.
Do all the work tonight. Yeah, we can, yeah, you don't have to come
I
next.
mean, there's no adjusting this.
No, I mean, that was the point of this
Yeah.
meeting. You have the ordinance draft. If you do have concerns, speak now. We'll address those happily. But if not, then I think what I'm hearing is the council that we should proceed with the ordinance as written and do the first reading in May.
There was a lot of conversation back and forth with the attorney, so
Yeah.
we feel very good.
Confident in that. It's really a good job.
Yeah, great work, Eric. Thank you.
Okay, and last under old business is the planning commission appointment. Jenna, I think that's you.
I can write to that. So we have a vacancy. We have one vacancy on the planning commission. Myself and Councillor Brad were appointed by council to be on the appointment and selection committee. At the March meeting, we asked planning commission to appoint someone within themselves that had been a longstanding member. That person is Lee Hildebrand. So the three of us, myself, Lee and Brad, all met to review per our rules, met to review criteria for the planning commission appointment. I can read through these, or did council read through these?
I would read through them.
Okay. So we have made an addition, and I'll read through, we have 5 bullet points. A balanced group of people that represent people who live, own property in Manzanita city limits or urban growth boundary. The applicant has read the comprehensive plan and has an understanding of basic land use issues and principles. The third can be objective, weigh and balance complex issues and rely on, and there's a change here. We removed the comp plan. Can rely on the ordinance for decision-making. Basically does not let personal opinion bias objective weigh their land use issues. The fourth one has limited, if any, potential conflicts of interest. We want them to be able to participate in the meetings. And then the fifth last one, applicant demonstrates ability to listen and communicate effectively in group setting. So the 4 prior ones were accepted by last council. That's what we worked with. We did make that revision to remove the COP plan. You really need to base your decisions on the ordinance. And then we added a 5th one, applicant demonstrates ability to listen and communicate effectively in a group.
Oh, that was an excellent addition.
And the open position will fill the vacancy
of John Manson.
And so the term will expire at the end of 2024.
Yeah.
Correct.
Is there a discussion around originally planned, we would put the application out tomorrow? Is that still going to be the
I think
case?
we should go ahead and do that.
Is it ready?
Leila, there is.
Is the application ready?
So we do currently have a quorum on the planning commission. We have 6 members.
Right.
So we're not in a huge rush.
Right.
So there is some concern about the selection process.
Correct.
It doesn't include the budget process, which is different, and there are some issues. And what we want to do is deal with the selection process with time to go through it and make appropriate changes so that we do it only one more time. And so I'd asked Leila if we could put it on the May work session to discuss, and we'll have a selection process identified, and then we can work through the language of that.
So then if we are still working through it, I suggest that we postpone that we agree on the criteria tonight.
Okay.
We postpone the application. I mean, I don't think it needs to wait a month, but we're not urgently.
You could time it to following the.
Yeah.
One thought, just to expedite, if you want, is you could have the discussion at the regular session in May. Decision in May. Otherwise, you do it at the work session and make your decision in June.
Okay,
I'll defer to council on what they want to do, but that could be an option.
that would certainly expedite it. That's a good
If
idea.
you think it's going to be a lengthy discussion that's going to require a lot of time, then I would recommend you do a work.
I'm hopeful that it will not require a lot of time. It's just, there are some just minor changes.
And the workshop that you said that this would be discussed next week?
No,
In May. And so if we move that to the May council meeting, that's a week earlier,
well, and you can make a decision.
and we can make a decision, right? Right. No, if it's all right with council.
So the other thing to look at is the timing. So we're required to have for 3 weeks.
Mhm.
That means if we post it tomorrow, the calendar again, excuse me, if we post it on the 6th, it will run through April 27th. Minimum, we did it through Friday before, so the 28th. That gives us then May 1st and 2nd to do interviews and discussion and appoint on the 3rd. And I don't That's very tight.
I think that's too tight.
That's very tight.
Yeah,
So if we need to do revisions, we need to postpone this.
yeah, I think you're correct.
So I think the first question is, how's the criteria? Any changes?
No, I like the
Questions?
criteria.
I
I thought it was great. I liked it. I really liked the addition.
Okay. So if we all agree on the criteria,
Do we need to make a motion? I don't. Can we just all agree?
I think you should make a
We
motion.
should make a
just for the
motion.
record.
Okay, do I have a motion to the criteria for the planning commission appointment as read by Jenna?
So moved.
So moved and seconded, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jerry. And Nancy, roll call.
Linda,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Jenna,
yes.
Brad,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Okay, so is there anything else on that?
So then I will just coordinate with Leila and the team when the application will go.
Okay, perfect.
Will you send a note to all of us? It'll come up on the city website?
Yes, oh, it will be very much announced.
Okay, very much announced. I like that. Okay, before we adjourn, is there anything for the good of the order?
Can
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, in terms of our communication and public outreach, we have the mayor Mondays. 10:30?
10:30 to 11:30, except the last Monday of the month will be as late as I could get it. So it'll start at 5 and go to 5:45.
And those will be posted on the website. They're on our calendar. We also started, yesterday was our first public meeting for conversation with counselors. These are focused on the City Hall project. We have six of these schedules. Hope to include as many people as possible. I know that there were questions about not able to make times. If you do have any questions, reach out to us. We will make time for you. But otherwise, the signups are online on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we hope to see everyone there.
Absolutely.
And it will be a fact-based conversation and just getting your questions and big decisions.
Big decisions, right?
So thank you. Doreen, question?
I went to one yesterday. It's great.
Oh, good.
Well attended, great conversation, great feedback from you guys and big input from the people around.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, thank you. Thanks for that comment. It's great.
So also just a reminder that the work session next Wednesday will be at 2:00 and it is Zoom. So thank you for attending or listening in tonight. We appreciate your interest in helping us govern the city and thank you for the many contributions that you make to reflect the pride that we have from living here. This meeting will be adjourned at 8:08.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Meeting.
Councilor Brad.